Good day, mates. My name is Mordecai, and welcome back to the show, where a new player strives to become a better player by reading about bad players. Being new, I anticipate that at some point I might have an experience with a less than cohesive party, and I am under the impression that could be fun in an interesting way, but I would prefer to have the party be at least somewhat functional. Sometimes, however, players can run into a person referred to as that guy. That guy is apparently the epitome of the bad player trope for TTRPGs, with behaviour that can include being disruptive, playing a shoot first, ask questions later mentality, or even metagaming. Before we get started with the story, I am aiming for 1,000 subscribers by the end of September 2022. So if you like my content and want to see more, please subscribe and like the video. It's free and you can always change your mind later. Enjoy! Today's story features a that guy, as well as a phrase I've been able to avoid for roughly 4 episodes. This story is titled Chaotic Tabaxi Plays Against the Party, and is written by Ishpard4. Warning, English is not my first language. Warning number 2, this is maybe a bit too long. This is my first time posting here. I hope it goes well. I have been playing Dragon's Heist in a Discord server for a little while now, and our Tabaxi Ranger has been an issue since the beginning. The relevant cast members are our DM, who happens to be a really cool dude, a Fathomless Warlock, played by a member who has his character die during the events of the story, a fighter, an old friend of mine who was relatively new to D&D, our monk, who happens to be a really great ally, the Celestial Warlock, played by me, and the Tabaxi Ranger, who was played by the problem player. I will go through the problems chronologically, but I won't go into the details of the story in order to avoid spoilers for Dragon's Heist. Early on, our party decided that the low-level thugs our enemies were employing didn't deserve to die, and we were able to capture them easily. The second we turn our backs, however, the Tabaxi murders them and refuses to apologize. I guess it was minor stuff at the time. During all of this, however, the Tabaxi also tried to control the fighter's actions on multiple occasions, since she kept making suboptimal choices in favor of roleplay, which I think is cool. This causes the fighter to quietly leave the game after the session, but I only really learned the reason much later on. Afterwards, our Fathomless Warlock dies due to bad decisions and terrible rolls, and I suggest that we should try to revive her. The Tabaxi thinks that we should just throw her into the sea and be done with it. She fears we will turn her into a zombie for some reason. We have a vote and the majority sides with me, but then the Tabaxi snatches the body and tries to make a run for it. The Fathomless belonged to a small race, I can't remember which, so carrying her was easy. A combat/chase scene ensues, and our monk finally beats up the Tabaxi and recovers Fathomless' body. We threaten the Tabaxi, but ultimately let her go. We manage to make a deal with a cleric to preserve Fathomless' body until we can get the money to bring her back. And the next day, my character convinced the Tabaxi that Fathomless couldn't be revived and she was given a burial. Lucky deception rolls. This ruins the Tabaxi's plans of tracking the body down and destroying it to prevent resurrection. At the end of the session, I asked the player to please stop antagonizing the party so we can play the campaign together instead of against each other. This works for a little while. Fast forward a couple of sessions. At some point in the story, the monk had left a box at my character's apartment. The Tabaxi saw this happen, and the player decided that due to a feline curiosity, she desperately needed to see the contents of the box, which leads to the boiling point of this story. She tries to sneak into the house whilst my character is performing a ritual in the chimney, fine familiar with my Book of Shadows, but she can't get in. She then tries to clog the chimney so that the smoke from the ritual forces me out of the house, but she fumbles her rolls and my character hears her on the roof as he finishes the ritual. The Tabaxi then proceeds to break a window and stand in the street with a rope tied to an arrow. When my character sees her, he opens the window and asks what she wants. The Tabaxi fires her arrow. Plan was to hit me with the arrow and then pull the rope to make me fall to the street from a third floor, so 46 damage I'm guessing? I'm third level at this point with 24 health. The DM approves, but luckily she misses, and I follow up with a Hex and Eldritch Blast combination that hits with a critical, that one-taps the Tabaxi into making death-saving throws. I stabilize her with Spare the Dying, but she ends up getting tied up by the neighbors, with the city guards being called. After this session, I tried for a second time to have a discussion about the Tabaxi's behavior, but it escalated to voices being raised. I should have waited to cool off, really. I'm done fighting her. I could have let her die. She had failed 2 death-saving throws. But I'm always making an effort to forgive her actions so that we can be a party and just play the campaign. But the Tabaxi's player isn't having it. It's what my character would do, is the main argument used. It's here. It's here, mates. It's the infamous "it's what my character would do" phrase. And as per the trope, it's used in a situation with the problem player attempting to use it to justify a completely nonsensical course of action for the character to undertake. Feel free to take a gander as to how many more bad tropes this particular problem player endorses before the end of the story. Let's resume. The blame is also redirected to me, for not leaving the building when she broke the window, to the monk, for not showing the Tabaxi the content of the box, and to the DM, for not describing more deeply the building where my character lives. The player also said, "I'm not creating conflict, I only shot you once at the end." The argument being that conflict means actually trying to deal damage, and that acting against the party, stealing from them, and breaking their private property doesn't count as conflict? I'm baffled, and honestly worried for their revenge once they get free. As I was writing this, I got an update on the issue. The DM wanted to give the Tabaxi another chance, but the player decided to quit the game once the server staff issued a warning. This game was apparently not the first one where the player antagonized the party. I might have been able to manage the whole thing better, but at least I'm glad I don't have to fear player versus player on a player's whim. As a side note, the fighter is rejoining the game now, and a new player is joining as well, so the campaign is still going strong. In summary, a problem player antagonizes the party, and tries to throw my character from a 3rd floor, whilst failing to see their behaviour as being conflictive towards the rest of the party. And that is the end of the story. There's a number of good, valid reasons why player versus player antagonism is discouraged, if not outright prevented, at a large number of tables. I honestly don't think I would mind friendly competition between players, such as a light-hearted cooking contest between their characters, but that's not what's happening in this story. That Tabaxi was engaged in a rather insidious form of PvP antagonism involving the entire party. That player has rightly earned the title of That Guy, and it's not a prestigious title. If a staff member on the server has to explicitly issue a warning against you, you have made a mistake. Remember to look out for your fellow players, especially at the table. And if you want to have some PvP antagonism in the game, or really any form of player versus player action, make sure you clear it with the table at Session 0. And if Session 0 isn't an option, discuss it with the players and the Game Master outside of game time. As a new player, this is the lesson I learned from this story. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to subscribe and leave a like. It's free to do, and you can change your mind later. If you have any thoughts on this story or feedback on how I can improve, feel free to leave a comment. Again, thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you all next time.